Welcome, everyone, to our WOII Weekly Wisdom Live, brought to you by WOII, Women of Impact and Innovation International, honoring wisdom while building the next generation of innovative women leaders. Each month, we'll be focusing on one topic, and each week, we'll be diving into different aspects of that topic. This month's topic is International Stress Awareness Month for the month of April. My name is Sabrina Protic, and I have with me my fellow WOIII ambassadors. That would be Lisa Hatch and Tuyette Forrest. So we're excited to come before you. And again, this week's wisdom topic is on stress awareness. So we will be discussing these key points. Lisa Hatch will come up first, and she's going to be discussing the chronic and acute areas of stress and the hormones and its impact to the body. Go ahead, Lisa.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Since science is my background, I'd like to approach stress in a way that it might help you understand what your body is doing when your body is in a stress mode. And just to be clear, stress isn't always bad. Stress can help you through possibly not getting in a car accident or getting through a tough assignment or getting through an awkward moment at work or a deadline at work. So some stress is not bad, and we call those type of stressors acute. They come and go, and the adrenaline hormone in the body helps you get through those acute, short stress situations. And so adrenaline will get your heartbeat going, your palms will become sweaty, your heart rate will increase and be more forceful, allowing more oxygen to your body to so it can cope with this added stress. We call it a fight or flight response. And so that's all really great. But however, sometimes in our lives we have situations that could cause long-term stress. And this long-term stress is called chronic stress. For instance, if there is a very heart wrenching event that has happened in your family, a loss of a child, a long divorce, things that being a victim of a crime or an abusive relationship you've just gotten out of. There's so many things that can trigger chronic stress. And so when chronic stress kicks in, another hormone is released. And this hormone is called the stress hormone, and it's called cortisol. Cortisol pretty much does the same thing as adrenaline. However, in the long-term effect, for months and months, this cortisol will start having negative effects on your body, such as lowering your immune system. And when your immune system lowers, you're susceptible to illnesses, and that just compounds what you're going through, right? I mean, you already have this chronic stress going on and you're so worried and upset. It can also cause stress eating disorders, whether you binge eat to help yourself, or if you are unable to eat and you become very thin. Either way, it's not healthy. I went through a chronic stress situation, and unfortunately, I became very, very thin and very unhealthy. And so I had a doctor that worked me through helping me gain my physical health back. But he emphasized that cortisol is your enemy when you're talking about chronic stress. And so when we're dealing with long-term stress, it's important to understand what your options are for treating it. And sometimes you don't even feel like treating it. You just feel like, oh my gosh, I just can't handle this anymore. This is really rough. And I see a lot of chronic stress in teenagers these days, especially after COVID. And so it's so important to have a person you can confide in, that you can talk to about what you're going through. And possibly just talking about what you're going through can relieve some of this stress. But in most cases, it's been my experience that a person with chronic stress should either seek help with a therapist. That can help so much. And also, there are medications that a doctor can prescribe. And FYI, some of these medications can be addictive, so you've got to be under a doctor's care, such as Xanax or something like that. And so, when we're dealing with this chronic stress, it's important to understand the symptoms. And I just want to reiterate a few of these symptoms. I've mentioned some of them, but chronic stress can bring on chronic pain, believe it or not, because of the lowering of the immune system. You can start experiencing aches and pains that you never had before because of this lowered immune system. There can be sleep problems, insomnia. You won't be able to sleep, or you sleep all day. One way or the other, it can cause ill effects with your sleeping patterns. It can lower your libido. Your sex drive can be affected. And of course, we know that, that part of our life can bring happiness. So that's another thing. We need that, right? Um, and you also can experience what we call the brain fog. And brain fog is just really tough, especially if you're working through this chronic pain. If you've got a really, important job, whatever, all jobs are important, right? But if you've got a deadline and you've got brain fog, it's just difficulty concentrating and coming up with the words that you want to use and so forth. And then lastly, despite probably sleeping all day, sometimes a person would still experience fatigue. And that's due mainly to your lowered immune system. Cortisol long term is not great. So, for any of you women that may be experiencing any of these symptoms, and you've gone through something pretty traumatic, I would urge you to find someone to talk to. Um, if you are able to see a therapist, some sort of counselor, I would suggest that as well. There is a therapy called EMDR. It was designed by the military, and it basically takes your triggers, your emotional triggers that cause this chronic pain. And scientifically, it's a scientific process. It takes your neural pathways that trigger you in a negative way, and it takes those pathways and it triggers you in a positive way. And I underwent EMDR for several years, and it certainly helped me get past a lot of these chronic stress symptoms. And I totally believe in it. So if you have any questions about EMDR or anything about chronic stress and cortisol, please, I'd love to answer any questions you've got. So that's it, Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Lisa. You did a great job on that. Again, identifying those stressors, as you mentioned, is very, very important. So, it's all in knowing the signs. Remember, we're talking about stress awareness. So, I'm going to take on a different hat. I'm going to wear a different hat. And mine is going to be on financial stress awareness. Certainly, we live in unparalleled times. And just within the past 2 years, we all went through the pandemic. And not only did the pandemic impact us physically, but it impacted people financially. I don't think the world will ever be the same. So what do we mean by financial stress? Again, we talked about, the pandemic. What about a job loss? Because we're talking about stress awareness. So, what are some of the signs? What do we look for? How do we know we're going through financial stress? Well, let's look at some of the things that create that financial stress. Um, Losing a job during the pandemic, before and after, people had to go on unemployment, and some people couldn't go on unemployment if they had been an entrepreneur. Do you realize that if you ran a business and you were 1099, you did not qualify for unemployment? Now that is stressful. Where's that income replacement going to come from? But what we're talking about is the domino effect and the things that create that financial stress. So, worrying about income, worrying about job, worrying about a business, worrying about the collapse of an economy. Now, more recently, they're talking about banks. What's going on with banks? I saw something someone sent me today. This bank in another country is closing its doors and whatever. People are now concerned. The stock market is changing, and what do I do with my money? And that's creating stress. So understand the triggers of stress. And we're going to talk about being absorbed in things like that later. But right now, I want you to identify the triggers. Are you watching a lot of news? Are you watching a lot of the sensationalism? It's
Mm,
good to know what's going on, but at some point, you have to be balanced and realistic about these triggers. The family finance. Maybe we were one that spent our money loosely for a while. Back before the pandemic, life was what we call life was good, and people did a lot of disposable income spending, eating out on a regular basis, going on big fancy vacations and those things. And you worry about paying the bill later, but now you can't even count on later because the
mm,
economy is different. So there are some of the things that initiate the stress. Now, what can this financial stress do? It can cause insomnia, inability to sleep because your wheels are turning. Your mind is, you can't even sleep at night. How am I going to pay the bill? Am I going to have to close my business down? How am I going to feed my family? What's going to happen to the
mm,
employees that I was paying? Those things occupy space in our mind. So insomnia, weight gain, eating uncontrollably because we've got this stress going on, weight loss, inability to eat, anxiety, um, feeling overwhelmed. Anxiety is nothing but feeling overwhelmed. Things are bigger than life. Relationship difficulties. All of a sudden now you're fighting with your mom, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your spouse, your boyfriend, your partner, your children, because it's really like walking on eggshells with you, because you have things that are subconsciously affecting you. And so you're not settled, and you have relationship issues, even detachment. You start detaching from people, from social circles. You become a hermit. Maybe you don't talk to your
mm,
spouse or the people you used to talk to, your bestie, your BFF. You no longer communicate and talk because you're going through this financial stress, and it's a dog chasing its tail.
mm,
A big sign of financial stress is physical ailments. All of a sudden, not only can't you sleep, but you become weak, you become dizzy, you become lightheaded, you become nauseous, your hair falls out, you start having, dental issues, you start having vision issues. I know of a man that I worked with for years, financial stress. It was his dream to own his own company, lumber company, and then he was going to own that company and eventually retire, and his company ran into some roadblocks, financial roadblocks. He wasn't able to pay his bill. He was always known for a man of his word. 6 months later, he was dead.
mm,
Stress killed him because he couldn't breathe. He couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. And this man was probably in his late, no, I want to say 50s. And the stress killed him. Physical ailments. Do not underestimate the physical power of stress. So I want to say on a personal level, and it's all financial. His was financial. The thought of losing his company several years ago, in my corporation. Now I'm going to say several. This really probably was about 20 years ago, and the company was going through some changes, and there were three of us. And my manager said, "Well, at the end of the month, there's only going to be two of you." Now that was really inappropriate for him to say. Why he said that? Well, I think he thought we'd all step up to the plate and increase production. But it did just the opposite. We all got physically ill. I felt like there was something crawling in my head. I don't know if I never felt that way before, but I felt like there were just a bunch of little things crawling in my head. And it was stress, it was blood pressure because I thought I was going to lose my job.
mm,
And that's what stress, and it wasn't me. I confided in someone. They said, "Oh, it's not going to be you. It's going to be Susie." Well, why would you put three people through that type of financial stress and anxiety? It's a terrible thing to happen. So how do we manage financial stress? Well, first of all, Talk to someone. Talk to your spouse, your partner, your BFS, your significant other. Talk to someone that's well respected, that can just listen. Just even being able to make those expressions can relieve the stress. Next, talk to a financial professional, someone who's licensed and credentialed, that can help you devise a financial game plan to find that open door should you lose your job. Your inability to pay your bills, get on a payment plan. Let's see what we can reduce. Let's see, control the spending. Let's create a budget or a financial spreadsheet so you can gain more control. There's always a silver lining to every cloud. Now, it may take some time. This is not going to be an overnight remedy for financial stress, but there is a starting point. Also, get adequate rest, eat healthy and balanced meals, and control the alcohol consumption, because one of the other signs of financial stress is excessive drinking. So you want to control the alcohol consumption. You want to be in a clear space and a clear mind to make financial decisions for your household. So now we've talked about what financial stress is. And listen, we've all been there. Even wealthy people have had financial stress. Think about when the stock market changes, and they were here and they're there. And I saw it during the pandemic where people who were well renowned, who had big speaking gigs, all of a sudden they don't have those speaking gigs anymore. You think they went through financial stress? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
they did. Their lifestyle changed. Our lifestyle changed. So, understanding the triggers, then understanding again the signs and symptoms of you absorbing that stress, not being able to eat, sleep, and eat properly, and maybe consuming too much alcohol. And then again, understanding the tips to get us back on track by talking to someone in our family, financial professional, even the clergy. If you're a religious person, you can seek spiritual help. Whatever it is for you, whatever it is that's going to give you that peace of mind for your financial well-being, do that. So I'm Sabrina Prodick. I'm happy we talked about the financial awareness and stress. So now we're going to be listening to Tuyette Forrest, and she's going to be talking about the physical, emotional, and psychological side of stress and how that impacts us. So we're going to bring her up.
Thank you. Well, the physical and the emotional and the psychological symptoms of stress, there are a few that can manifest physically, such as headaches, the muscle tensions, and then stomach problems and fatigue. Like, to be aware of these physical symptoms, these are what comes whenever you have stress. And this is physically. Emotionally, if you have anxiety, you feel irritable, sadness, or anger, these are the emotions, right? And there's triggers that can be big factors to these, such as work, relationship, financial problems, or health issues. And the best way to understand what causes stress in your life is it can help you avoid and manage those situations more effectively if you understand what are triggering these things that are happening to you in your life. And some of the ways to cope with feeling stressed are physical activities, and that can help improve mood and reduce stress. And then mindfulness practice such as meditation, deep breathing, and yoga, it helps reduce the stress and it improves mental clarity. And also talking to friends or, social support, family members or therapists, it helps reduce the stress as well. But another thing is self-care, or, time to yourself, taking a warm bath, getting a massage, or listening to calming music. Um, Another way to help it is positive self-talk, reframing negative thoughts into positive ones, and it can help reduce stress and improve self-esteem. So if you are mindful of eating too, is paying attention to what you eat, because what you eat also, it does affect uh you know your stress, like improve overall your health. So getting adequate sleep can help reduce stress and improve overall well-being. And then also setting boundaries around work. Oh, social media. That can really be another thing that causes stress too. People often like to, for instance, for me too, I had to cut off social media before because I would look at it and sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, but just balancing all that out, it helps reduce the stress and promotes a healthy work-life balance. And that's about it.
I have a comment before we end. Listening to all of these suggestions, they're so healthy to do. But if you've had stress for a long time and you're feeling depression along with it, go see a doctor immediately. Um, Stress and anxiety are one thing, but when depression sets in, that's a whole nother beast. And so the two combined can really knock you down. It can just be really challenging to get back on your feet when you have both anxieties, when you have both stress and depression. So go see a doctor immediately if you can. If you're feeling really depressed, or if you know of someone that has had long-term stressful situation, whether it's financial, personal, um, so many things can cause it. And I'll tell you, stress is a killer. It can kill, because it just breaks down your physical body. It just tears your immune system down. So it's not something to ignore. It's a very real problem. So
Lisa, I want to chime in on that if you don't mind.
sure.
Um, Stress can create suicidal thoughts.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when she mentioned it's a killer, not only could it kill you involuntarily because of your insomnia, your poor eating habits, lack of giving your body proper nutrition, but it's the mental side. It's that mental health. We didn't really go too much into that today. Maybe they'll do that
Mhm.
next week,
Yeah.
because we do need to talk about the mental side of stress
Yes.
awareness. But
Mhm.
nowadays, it's very common to see where people have committed suicide of all ages
Mhm.
because of stress, maybe family stress, infighting in the home, relationships, not feeling loved, wanted, bullying, all different types of
Mhm.
things is creating that suicidal thoughts. And sometimes people are also taking that stress out on others, and we see these mass killings and things like that, and a lot of that is from stress.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
my final
And
thought before
then,
Lisa, well, and maybe Tuette may have something to say, I want to say this is that let's be responsible to notice that in other people. If we
Yes.
notice these behaviors, these triggers that we talked about in our warm circle of people, family, friends, husbands, wives, children, let's try to have a conversation, not accusatory, because there's a way to talk to people, but just kind of open up the door and say, hey, I noticed this, that. Do you need someone to talk to? Just open the door up, because you might save a life by doing
Mhm.
that.
absolutely.
Anybody
Uh,
else have any closing comments before Lisa closes this out? Okay,
that is.
I'll bring Lisa up,
Okay.
and she can put her words of wisdom in. And I do want to say this: it's been great to do this stress awareness, because we've all learned something today. From all of us ladies, I appreciated the yoga from Tuet and those doing those physical things to help us with our stress awareness. We do need to do that. That stress relief and the chronic side, as Lisa talked about, understanding the chronic triggers of stress. So, Lisa, take it
Okay.
away.
Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope today's innovative nuggets of wisdom has inspired you to take action towards an even greater life. Please put a reminder in your calendar for every Tuesday. Is it every Tuesday around 12:30 PST, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time? Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I think that's correct. So you don't ever miss our weekly wisdom with your WOIII sisters. So then please visit our website at womenoiii.com and research all the opportunities to become part of WOIII, from anywhere from VIP memberships, events, and even brand ambassador board positions we have still open. Have a great week and live unapologetically and with honor, gratitude, and disruption. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
And Lisa, before we end, Crystal wanted me to mention that every we missed it every Monday. We do Facebook opportunity to tell for you as a member of WOII community to tell us who you are and what you do. And we only had a few people jump on that opportunity yesterday, but every Monday, that's your opportunity to put a little post out there about who you are, what the nature of your business is. So we want to make sure you know that that's out there. We want to continue on our membership drive. We're about 20 people shy of our next 100 marker. I think we'll hit 300. So if you know any other women that want to be a part of impacting our world internationally, invite them, invite to our WOII community, our Facebook. Just send an invite, tell them or ask them to come join. We'd love to welcome them in with open arms. And this would be women internationally. So there are no borders on WOII. Let's just keep the membership growing. And also, if you're interested in being an ambassador, like Lisa mentioned, reach out to myself, Sabrina Protic. You can send me an instant messenger, a DM, and I will arrange to have an interview with our CEO of WOII. Have your personal one-on-one to be considered as one of our ambassador boards, and then we'll look forward to seeing you here doing a Facebook Live on our topic for the month and sharing your words of wisdom. So
Great.
again, join us on WOII. And from the three of us, Lisa, Tuet, and Lisa, we want to say thank you for joining us and tune in next week. We don't know if it's going to be on a Tuesday and we don't know what time, but there will be a Facebook Live next week about stress awareness and some other tips. Hopefully, they will go over the mental health side.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.